So, with regards to forecast models, a lot of the public might be thinking, oh, yeah, I see the forecast models posted all over the internet. For example, this hurricane's supposed to hit and never happens, or this big snowstorm's supposed to hit the east and it never happens. But in reality, there are statistics kept on the accuracy of this forecast models, and indeed things are improving, correct?
That's right. And we're definitely not perfect. I think part of the problem on social media is a lot of that data that gets shared, is something like 2 weeks out and some of that stuff that's kind of beyond our skillful range. But now within like 5 to 7 days, kind of the typical forecast timeline of what the Weather Service does, what the Hurricane Center does, we're doing pretty well now. And we're continuing to get better. And things like AI come online, and we're able to take advantage of new tools like that. I think we have a lot of room to keep getting better. But it requires investment in both people and money.
And also talk a little bit about the hurricane hunters that fly into these storms and get the information that goes into the forecast models to help kind of refine the track. Without these hurricane hunters available, once we get into the hurricane season, we might have a much different outcome this year than previous years, correct?
Yeah, because the hurricane hunters provide some of the best data on getting, that gets into the models, and also that the Hurricane Center uses to sort of inform their advisories. And we've seen cases in the East Pacific recently, like Otis in 2023, where we didn't have recon. The storm rapidly intensified unexpectedly, hit Acapulco, a major city, as a Category 5. And I'd hate to see something like that happen in the U.S. But with staffing issues and budget issues, all those things continue to happen. You could risk not having as much recon flight data, and hopefully we don't go down that path. But we really need more of it, not less.
Would you say a prime example of folks not being informed of a major system that was heading their way would be Camille back in the early 1900s, where if we really had absolutely no satellite, no radar, no meteorologists, something like that potentially could impact the US?
Yeah, I mean the probably the prime example is like the Galveston hurricane in 1900. Because I think by the time Camille came along, we at least had some satellites and there were planes, but nothing like what we have today. And so, the other thing that's really good is it allows obviously people in the affected area to get earlier warnings with all this data we provide, but also it means that the cone's narrower, so you have fewer false alarms, fewer people that have to need prepare needlessly, and that means you save a lot of money, from evacuations and things that don't have to happen. I think the estimate is like for every major hurricane that hits the U.S., NOAA's data and the work and the modeling, it saves about $5 billion per storm because of how you can focus your warnings, your preparations in the area that needs it, and don't have to shut things down across the board. So really, when you look at NOAA's budget, it almost pays for itself every hurricane season.
And what exactly were you working on right before you were laid off by NOAA?
So I was working on both. So our halves, this is kind of our upgrade cycle. In the every off season, we work on upgrading the model, based on last year's performance, and then we go back and run it on last year and previous years, and with a new version to sort of get that ready for the season. So we were working on that. I was looking at hurricanes in the global model GFS and sort of doing some evaluation of that because that's something that we haven't done a lot of. And working on kind of helping write the AI roadmap, so the sort of the plan of how NOAA and how EMC was going to use AI over the next 5 to 10 years. So, I was kind of at the, doing a lot of, important kind of cutting edge work that was, helping lead us into the next 5 years of modeling. And, the rest colleagues are still going to do great work, but it's just going to be fewer people and going to be stretched thin if these things continue.
And if these things continue, would it impact the performance of the European model as well?
Probably because I think they use a lot of the data. So if there's, less data collected and balloons and satellites, yeah, it won't just affect US models, it'll affect other modeling systems as well. So we could have sort of across the board forecast degradation, and hopefully not, but that is definitely a risk.
And obviously, going into the severe weather season with fewer balloon launches, that would perhaps lead to less efficient forecasts this spring, perhaps, I guess, correct?
Yeah, it could. We're getting ready to go right into tornado season. I think there's some modeling that suggests that we might see some of that later this week, and you hope that the forecasts, hopefully we won't see too much drop off yet, but the longer this goes with these issues, more of that we could see.
And also, folks really need to know that forecast modeling is just one tool. Meteorologists, Hurricane Center, National Weather Service, TV stations also use local climatology and all that information that goes into the forecast. It's not just purely what one model says or a suite of models. So I think the public really needs to know that there's a lot more that goes into forecasting than just looking at these models and kind of regurgitating what they say, correct?
That's right, and that's one of the reasons we need that meteorological expertise at the local level. Both the weather forecast offices and private companies. Because everybody brings that data in and uses their expertise to interpret it, and sort of we need each step of that process to make a good forecast and get that out there to people so they can make decisions.
Well, I really hope things turn around, and I hate to see what has happened to you and so many fellow folks in the NOAA and the National Weather Service because you are doing some great work that we, as broadcast meteorologists, use to help forecast and help to basically let our folks know what's going to happen so they can be aware because folks get the weather information from multiple sources, multiple weather apps. They'll look at the National Hurricane Center, they'll look at some of the other meteorologists and they'll say, okay, well, there's a general consensus here that this is going to happen. And then the TV meteorologist can say, okay, here's some of the local impacts that you might not
Right.
see from the Hurricane Center. So we really, really hope that the weather enterprise can come back together and that the government can make the decisions to keep NOAA and the National Weather Service with us, because if not, we could have a major disaster on our hands.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And people should know that the NOAA's data, the satellites, the radar, the model, that underpins a lot of the even the weather apps and things like that. So, it's not just NOAA's website directly. Any kind of weather data you get probably has NOAA or National Weather Service behind it, and it's critical that that continue.
Right, and having those gaps, people will literally open a weather app and have absolutely no information, no way
Yep.
to prepare. Even if there wasn't a forecast there, they couldn't see any rain or thunderstorms coming their way, or even see a hurricane way out in the Atlantic that potentially could impact them. So let's just hope this gets resolved sooner than later, especially as we get deeper into the severe weather season.
Yeah, I definitely hope so.
Well, Andy, I really appreciate meeting with me and talking through everything that you are doing, some great work that you're doing. So thank you very much for helping to protect folks and using your expertise to improve these forecast models so folks like myself can have even more accurate forecasts and disseminate more information that will help protect the people that listen to me in the long run. So I appreciate it very much.
Yep, thank you.
Absolutely.